What's up, everybody? Welcome into another episode of Bulls Latest. Your host, Matt Johnson here. I want to kick off today's show with a mock trade I put together for you guys, a very simple one at that. It sends Nikola Vucevic to the Miami Heat in return for a first-round pick there. Miami could also give up a forward on its roster for Vuce. With the Chicago Center, there would be less playing time available for the other Heat forwards that are currently there. By doing this, Miami would be going for another deep playoff run with the acquisition of Vucevic, so it might make a lot of sense for the Heat, to give up that draft pick to Chicago. I do think if you're the Bulls, you look long and hard at an offer like this, getting that first-round pick for him. Now, I know it's extremely likely, and I've reported on this the last couple of weeks, that Vuce starts this upcoming season with the Chicago Bulls, but things could change as the season starts off there and as we move closer to that February deadline, given Vuce's aspirations to want to play contending basketball right now. So if you're the Bulls, though, the Bulls might prefer the first-round pick anyway over one or two depth forwards, because the pick will likely come with a few conditions, such as a top 5 protected. This trade makes sense for the Bulls because in a rebuild mode, the organization is going to be rumored to be interested in dumping Vuce's salary at some point. I mean, it's been talked about a ton already. That rumor reached a peak in July when pundits suggested the Bulls could simply buy out Vucevic. I talked about that in one of my shows earlier this summer. That was talked about, and I don't think a buyout would be great for Chicago at all, but it just shows you how motivated they are to kind of shed his salary there and kind of get him off the books in terms of the future for this team. So in terms of more basketball sense, though, it would make a ton more sense for Chicago to acquire that first rounder or some other type of asset for Vucevic. It sounds like the center fully expects to start in Chicago, like I've talked about. With this expiring contract, it would be surprising if he isn't traded at least before the trade deadline this coming February. When you look at the other side of this move, why did throw Miami in there? Miami's been a perennial contender in terms of NBA titles and such this entire decade. With Vuce, the Heat would bolster their front court with the center, who has averaged 18 points and 10 boards each of the past 2 seasons. Vuce will turn 35 in October, so giving up a first-rounder for him hurts. If you're Miami, that definitely does sting a little bit, but in terms of their future, they can look at winning now. In the next couple of years, they could result in a push for a championship again. I think that Miami team has a ton of talent around what they center the core there. So we'll see what happens. I thought the Heat make for an interesting partner in terms of flipping a first-round pick for Vuce, but we'll see if that comes to fruition at all there. Kind of switching gears, I had some news sticking with the Miami Heat on that side of things, with former Chicago Bulls, Jahmir Young, the Summer League standout, a guy I was very high on coming into this Summer League, has signed with the Miami Heat there. So that's an interesting move for them, obviously, with the Bulls making that tough decision to take Yuki Kawamura and make him a part of their future plans. Young hit the open market. That lasted about a month, before he was scooped up by Miami here. He's a thin point guard rotation in South Beach. He gives them a better chance of, himself a better chance of breaking out there. I think he'll have an opportunity to feature himself in some lineups there. I mean, Davion Mitchell and rookie Kasparas Jakučionis are the only 2 true point guards on the roster. Moreover, Mitchell profiles more as a defensive ace, while Jakučionis is 6'6", and he's more of a combo guard whose playmaking has led many to view him as a point guard there. So with Jahmir Young, he brings versatility. He's more capable of a scorer and a strong point of attack defender as well. At just 24 years old, I've talked a ton about this guy already this summer. You guys know how I feel about him. I was disappointed to see him, kind of shift away from Chicago there with that Yuki Kawamura decision. Although he isn't the best shooter, he didn't show the best shooting touch in the Summer League. He's shown he can knock down open and off the dribble looks from range in rhythm there. Most importantly, he's a savvy playmaker. He ranked 11th in the G League in assists a year ago, something I highlighted prior to this Summer League slate for the Bulls. So nothing is set in stone just yet, but the Bulls may have just gifted their perennial playing rival or from another formidable reserve point guard there. I thought that was some interesting news for Jahmir Young. So going and kind of dipping into the EuroBasket tournament here. I talked about this yesterday. Nikola Vucevic will be playing for Montenegro, his country there. ESPN came out with the top 10 players at the EuroBasket tournament there. They ranked them from 1 to 10 here, with Nikola Jokic of Serbia topping off the list. You got Giannis following up at 2, playing for Greece. Luka Doncic at 3, playing for Slovenia. Franz Wagner for Germany at 4. Alperen Sengun for Turkey at 5. You got Kristaps Porzingis playing for Latvia at 6. Former Bull Lauri Markkanen for Finland at 7. You got some other names on there: Santi Aldama, Neemias Keita rounding out that top 10 there for Portugal. Vooch and Dennis Schroeder of Germany were also mentioned as some other notable players in that ranking there. That tournament runs from August 27th all the way through September 14th. It's a 2014 tournament. It'll be a lot of exciting basketball, high-level competition there. So I just think it's going to be fun to kind of dip into that tournament and see how a lot of these NBA talents look at this point, in late summer here as we kind of near the preseason at that point. So just something to note there. That kicks off here at the end of August, the end of this month. I will certainly be tuning in to see how Nikola Vucevic looks ahead of a very critical season for himself at his age and what his future is going to possess here. So overall, I wanted to kind of cap off today's show with future outlook of this Chicago Bulls team. How different could this Bulls team look come February's deadline? There's a lot of parts that are up in the air. I wanted to get your guys' take on this. What do you expect? Amid the first couple months of the season, there's probably going to be a lot of the same pieces in place to start this next season. You're going to see Io in the lineup. You're going to see Vooch active in lineups. But coming towards the deadline here, I mean, you got guys who you could see move. This Bulls team could look drastically different, all kind of depending how the first half of this season goes, and how motivated they are to move guys. Like I think I told you guys, the win total sits at 32.5. I expect the Bulls to hover that. I think they are going to surpass that win total. I think they're going to win somewhere near 40 games again, and that is right in the conversation for kind of trading some of these pieces away around that February deadline. The front office is going to have to make a tough decision again on whether they want to sit and compete in that kind of a thin Eastern Conference here. Or do you want to kind of sell these pieces and make a decision to get the assets necessary now, while you risk letting some of these guys walk for nothing? Some names on the table here: Nikola Vucevic, Kobe White, Ayo Dosunmu. I mean, you're going to continue to see their names brought up all season long, especially towards the beginning of the season, in terms of both how they look, especially Ayo coming back from that injury, and then who's interested in them, who's going to have interest, just like there was sparking this past year during the trade deadline for the Bulls' multiple assets there. So I think it's an interesting place to be if you're the Chicago Bulls team. My outlook, I think, my hope for them is that they come out and play good basketball to start the season. I want the Bulls to get off on the right foot here. I'm excited for Isaac Okoro to join the rotation and kind of be plugged into many different lineup combinations there. Noah Sange, very excited to watch him play as well. However, you have to think what's going to happen with Kobe White and guys like Nikola Vucevic and Ayo Dosunmu. That's something that is definitely going to be on the minds of a lot of Bulls fans here as we move through the front portion of this season coming up here. So I would like to know your guys' takes in the comments. What do you expect this Bulls team to look like post-trade deadline this next year? What are your predictions? Do you expect them to contend up till that point in the Eastern Conference? And if they do you think that kind of changes the mindset of this Bulls front office to kind of stick with things and go for it in a much weaker East this year due to injuries all around? So again, I want to thank you guys for joining me on another episode of Bulls Latest. Again, I'd be interested to hear your guys' takes in the comments. And as always, we will see you guys tomorrow.